do this more often.
Heck
Um,
yeah, long overdue. No, thank you for having me. I'll
yeah,
try to share it on Target Walleye's page here.
yeah, that's a pretty cool format. I mean, some of these shows we've had some really big shows, and I think the first weekend in May or first week in May, I got Jay Siemens coming on. We're going to
Nice.
talk about all his catch and cook stuff, and yeah, we got some cool things happening here with John and Steve, and it's going good. That signing with Z Man's pretty cool.
That's
Um,
awesome, man. Yeah, I saw
so
you had Gussie on right after his classic win too, like right away.
yep, yep. We've got the one thing that I love to do is fish, not like everybody else. I've been doing so much bass fishing for walleyes, the last 10
Same
years over
here.
here, and excited to try some of the Z-Man stuff on that.
Dude, absolutely. The crossover is insane. Even before they started making stuff that's walleye specific, they had so many, SKUs of bass stuff that we were all using for walleyes anyway, too. So,
Sure. Can you see the comments on the side, Brett?
oh, there we go. Yeah, now I can.
Okay, so you can post a comment or type or whatever as people ask. It should pick everybody up from Facebook and YouTube because it's streaming simultaneously. So as
Sweet.
they ask questions, we can we'll just talk to them, or if you want to type some stuff in too, so, so be it. But yeah, I did send Corey an email to see if he was available, if he wanted to chime in and join in, but I didn't hear anything back from him yet.
He's probably
Um,
shoveling. He just lives up the road from me.
you guys got snow?
No, it's almost gone. This is like the fourth time there's been 90% grass, 10% snow, and then we wake up with 7 inches again. But now I'm down to like, just where the shadows are from the garage and stuff. There's a little bit, and hopefully by like tomorrow we're over it.
Nice. I know that last snowfall we had here, I took the tractor, or I took the snowblower off the tractor, and I said, I don't care what happens. It's just gonna have to melt. I'm done.
You jinxed us. It was your fault.
Yeah,
I put
yeah. The
my
neighbor.
shovel away, but like taking off the attachment is a little more aggressive than a shovel. So
I what happens too is every year I say May 1st. I don't care after May 1st. The flip flops come on, the winter gear goes away, and if I have to freeze out in the boat, so be it. But I refuse to put winter gear back on after May 1st. I'm just
oh,
done with it.
I think everybody is, without a doubt. I could still sneak out ice fishing here in Brainerd, Minnesota. I mean, I might have to lay a 2x4, like an 8 foot plank, but it's unbelievable. It's like there's still 14 inches on Gull right now. I mean, obviously not in the channels and stuff, but on the main lake and Mille Lacs. But we got big wind days coming up. That's going to knock all that stuff off. My guess is in about 1 week from now, we'll be ice out, even though it doesn't look like it's possible. But big wind will wreak havoc.
That's crazy. And it's a weird year. What really sucked for us is we had all that rain back in January when you guys got all that snow. So yeah, we had great ice, but that rain just destroyed everything. And then you guys had all that snow and you couldn't get out. So it was a catch 20. No matter where you went, it was like everybody was screwed. It was just a terrible ice season. But then the
Yeah.
latter part of your guys' season was awesome. Looked like everybody was getting out and fishing
Yeah.
late and
It was a
sucked.
short window. It's going to be like our spring where we just go straight to summer. It's like that
Yeah.
late ice period where all the ice melts down and you can drive a truck anywhere you want on the lake for 3 weeks. It was just such a short window, but yeah, what do you do? Like you said, Wisconsin, Minnesota, everywhere, anywhere, worst, hardest, most difficult ice season for everybody I've talked to in every inch of the ice belt.
Yep.
Just
And
and
then
fun.
our friends over in Michigan and out east, they had like a week window to fish. That was it. So it was, I mean, it was just bad all the way around. I hope it never replicates. That's for sure.
Yeah.
On the sales side of things, everybody's hurting, and what people don't realize is even when a dealer has a bad winter, it ties up his dollars to buy stuff for spring and summer. So it hurts them all year long. And some years it's just hard for these guys to dig out. So I always tell everybody, that's watching, please go support your local bait shops. Those guys need you more than anything this year, and patronize them and try and stay away from some of the box stores, and help out your little guys first if you can.
Absolutely. And you combine the winter with in Minnesota, we're going to have a huge live bait shortage. And man, I just feel terrible for the local bait shops because in Minnesota, we're one of 2 states that can't import bait. We send it out all over the place, but we can't import. And with the high water years and the winter kills, like winter kill kills off shiners and stuff too. And everyone's going to have to learn how to fish artificials this year, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to get bait, and what do you do, I guess? But yeah, it's like I go in and buy some TRDs and chuck around a Ned rig.
So, and Chase and Walter said they lost a lot of fish to winter kill in South Dakota too. Are you starting to see it yet, Brett? I mean, can you see some of the shorelines? Are fish starting to float up?
In southern Minnesota, yes. Up here, we finally just got that little bit of a gap between the shore and the ice. We hadn't had it up until a couple days ago, so we haven't really gotten to see yet. But in southern Minnesota, 2-3 hours south of me, there's lakes that are opening up, and yeah, a big winter kill year, which is a bummer. It depends, but there's a bright side to it too. Some of the best big panfish lakes that I know of, they're winter kill lakes, and it kills everything off. There's not as many in there, but what's left in there grows so fast, and it's a blessing and a curse. But if you have a lake that has winter kill or gets overfished, it's a little gem. Go back in 4 years, and usually you can sneak one season in of catching some of the biggest fish you've ever caught in that lake before the word gets out that 5th year.
Yep. Yeah,
But,
that there's a lot of truth to that. Is those lakes will kind of get forgotten about for a few years, and if you're on top of it and you're out there checking, it can be rewarding before everybody else figures it out again, for sure.
yeah, so crazy how
Well,
fast they can go when there's no competition, and if there's still forage in there, and it's like you can have a 9-inch bluegill in like 3 years in some of these little sloughie fertile waters.
yeah. I think we got a bunch of people on now, but Brett McComas from Target Walleye. Hey, thanks for coming on. We've known each other for quite a while. Met you guys through, like everybody. I mean, we meet everybody through fishing. It's a really awesome small community, and it's just a bunch of friends that you really never lose those relationships. And one question I guess is, tell us about yourself. Where did you come from? How did you get to where you're at? And we'll sit back and listen.
I'll try to keep it super short.
Yeah.
Basically 50-50 social media nerd and fishing junkie, and combine the two, and posted way too often on Instagram and obsessed with it. And eventually the right person saw my photos, and I weaseled my way into managing Target Walleye's Instagram. And then that turned into helping to write the email 5 hours a week to 10 to 20 to all of a sudden 40 hours a week. And had to leave my cushy bank job and commit to this fishing craziness. And I wish I would have done it 10 years sooner. I mean, but yeah, just like you said, we're all wired differently. We're junkies. We're nuts. It's all we think about, all we want to do. And yeah, I mean, I would do it for free, as long as I wouldn't get kicked out of my house and could still come to the lawyers. I would do it for free, but don't tell Al that.
JK's probably listening in too.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing over there?
It's the same. Just itching to actually get a spring and actually, I was going into the office the other day and Al was walking out the same time I was walking in and we were getting another snowfall. And he opens the door and he's got 3 boxes in his hand. One of them's a jig and wrap box, a hair jig box, and then like I think a plastics or that jig and shadow wrap box. And like we've almost bumped into each other because it's this mirrored glass. And I'm like, where are you going? We're getting 7 inches of snow and we got 3 feet of ice at that time. And he's like, I got to play with some baits. I'm going home and I'm just going to start organizing stuff. And that's just where we're all at. It's just, we need it. It's our yoga. It's our zen. It's our happy place. Get me outside so I can stop looking like a ghost.
Yeah, you'll be a raccoon here before too long.
Oh, Maisie says hi. Hi, Maisie. That's my 4-year-old daughter. She'll be 5 in August. And that's so cool that she's watching right now. She loves catching walleyes. And I took her out this fall, September, and she caught a 27-inch walleye, her first walleye ever, on a jigging wrap. Reeled the thing in from 70 feet out. I casted. And her first walleye ever was a 27-incher.
Just wrecked for life, man.
She's good. She's dialed. She's going to be my future attorney partner. I love you, Maisie.
Nice. That is awesome. There's something special about bringing our kids out. Now all my kids have caught their first walleyes all by themselves, and I remember every single one of them, very to the fine details. And there's not a prouder moment when you give them a rod and they can do it themselves. It's pretty cool.
Unbelievable. She's a little cute blondie, girly girl wearing princess dresses, but if you give her a dozen leeches, she's good for 4 or 5 hours.
Nice.
Cycling through them and naming them and playing with them, and same with the minnows, crawlers, whatever. It's like you can't get her away from that stuff. I've even brought an iPad within the boat. We try not to use it, but she doesn't care about that. Give me those leeches, It's so cool.
That's awesome. She's a little cutie, man. She is gonna be a handful when I don't envy you. You're gonna have your hands full there.
Yeah, she knows she's a cutie too. She just has to, bat her eyes at me, and it's like, all right.
Yeah. So, do you guys have any spring trips planned? I know you guys don't have anything going on in Minnesota yet, but any of the boys coming over, this way, fishing any of the rivers at all?
I really don't have anything in the books yet, which is weird. Normally, I've got multiple things set up, and I don't know. I'm going to be fishing local more this summer. I signed up for a local walleye league where we fish every other Tuesday all summer, and yeah, my fishing opener plans, I'm going to stay local and try to fish like 48 out of the 54 hours in a weekend or whatever, and hit as many lakes as I can. And no, I never did make it up to Rainy River this spring, and it's such a short window. We either have to drive all the way down to the Mississippi River south of the cities, Red Wing, which has been flooded too, or up to Rainy River. And usually I sneak up there 2-3 times a spring. And this year it was like every day that would have worked to go, the conditions were just bad. Like the one day I was planning to zip up there, and it just opened up by Birchdale, and then it got to like 6 degrees that next morning, so the river locked back over. I'm like, I don't think I want to go break 1.5 inches of ice. My boat's black. It shows a lot of scratches. And then the next weekend that I was going to go up there, the next couple days, the Little Fork River busted open and sent a 4 or 5 mile string of debris down the river, and it basically makes it unfishable for a couple days while it clears out. And then the season closed. So, yeah, now it's like, all right, hurry up and wait. Normally I'd sneak out and catch a few crappies right now, but I'd have to do that with muck boots and an ice auger, and I'm just not that mad at them. So I'm going to spool up rods and change the oil and lower unit lube in the boat this weekend and just hurry up and wait. But I've seen you been out. Was that a 31 incher? Green Bay?
31. Yeah, we probably could have got 31 and a quarter if we pinched the tail.
Yeah.
Um, that was our first fish of the day too, which was pretty awesome.
Dude.
And we, what's crazy is it's no secret. I mean, everybody's been doing it. It's just gets more popular every single year with social media. And, same, we talk about this every week, right? Social media and spots getting wrecked and more people joining. But, there's plenty of fish there. And if you're okay with dealing with some people and some crowds, this time of the year, you have to. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
one of those things. You have to deal with it. And sometimes you can get away and find some of your own little schools of fish, but if you really just want to sit there and pound on them for a while, the mouths of these tributaries on Green
Yeah.
Bay it's so much fun just to get it out of your system. You do that for one day and it's like, okay, now I don't have to sit there and catch a bunch. I just want to go catch, one or two of those real big ones. So we did it kind of opposite that morning. I had one of the buyers from Tyson's, which is a big retailer that we work with down in Iowa. Him and his dad came up, and I took him to De Pere on Friday night. They drove up from Iowa after work, got up here, and I said, "Okay, you guys ready to go out?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, we're gonna go fish tonight." He's like, "Well, what about tomorrow?" I'm like, "Oh, we'll fish tomorrow too. We'll go to the hotel, grab a couple-hour nap, and get up and go pounder hard the rest of the day." Well, didn't know what to expect because I've never met the guy before, just via phone, and he was bringing his dad. So I'm guessing his dad was kind of older, but both of them were troopers, diehard anglers, just like you and I. And we fished till about 2 in the morning on Saturday morning, went to a hotel, slept for about 2.5 hours, got back up and hit the lake and fished all day out on the water. And it was great. So we went and trophy hunted first, got the big one, missed a couple others, and then went and had some lunch, and then kind of joined the rest of the crowd and just sat there. And it was crazy, man. It was every cast or every other cast was a 26 and a half or a 27.5 inch walleye.
Oh,
It wasn't, I mean, it was like, oh, that's another 26. That's another 27. Every fish was cookie cutter. There's just not many times out of the year where you can do it that fast. It's almost like you're casting up into the shallows for perch and you're bringing,
dude.
almost 30-inch walleyes back to the boat every cast. It's crazy.
Cookie cutter 27s. You might. The lakes around me, I mean, Brainerd's great. It's high pressure. It's tough walleye fishing. Like our local walleye league, if you catch 2 or 3, you might get a check. Sometimes win. Like you might fish the whole year and catch one 27-incher. Everybody thinks like, oh, Brainerd's the mecca. That must be rough. It's like, no, sign me up for Green Bay and these big systems with freaking giants.
Right.
That's so cool. That was a huge fish. Its head looked like it was about the same diameter as yours. You had that.
The pitchers don't, when you get those big fish, and this was a post spawn fish too, and it's once you hit 30 inches, they just their build is totally different. I mean, they get bigger heads, their frames are a lot bigger. Had she been full of eggs yet, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine what that fish would have weighed. I mean, that thing was pretty thick. But it's just, there's something about catching those 30-inch fish. And Brett was, when we were talking back and forth, that's the buyer's name, Brett was telling me, he's like, I've never seen a 30-incher. I'm like, well, now's the time to get up here. If you really want a good chance, we're going to see one. I'm pretty certain we're going to see one. And then he was just as excited, netting the thing. I casted out that thumper jig with just a swim bait or a swim tail on it. And I felt it hit, and I knew right away it was a bigger fish just because it wasn't that, hard tap. It was just a whoa. You can feel it sucking in his mouth. I'm like, okay, this one's sucking some water. And I'm fighting it, and I get it up next to the boat, and he's like, you need a net? I look over and I see him roll, and I'm like, oh yeah. And I look at him, I said, now don't screw this up. No pressure on a guy I just met before. He did an awesome job. We got it in the boat, and we all kind of looked at each other, high fives all the way around, and a lot of memories were made, and it was awesome. Got some pictures, got some video of it, and put her back and watched her swim away.
Dude, that's so cool. I've been the net man on big fish like that, probably more than I've actually caught. And I promise you, he didn't want to screw it up more than you didn't want him to screw it up. I can promise you.
No, he did. He did awesome. It sucks when you go out with somebody like that. You always want them to catch it, right?
Right.
But there is something to be said about being the net man for a fish like that too. I mean, it's just something that you don't forget. You remember those
For
big
sure.
giants.
Oh yeah, and you feel like you caught it. You're just as pumped. You're just as jacked. It's just insane. It's
Yeah.
that's last opener. I got to net a 29 and a half, or it wasn't 30, but it was there for my buddy Christian Hoffman. He caught it on a chatterbait. After we took a break from walleye fishing, we went through the chatterbait jackhammer, like the bassy one, and he sticks this like 29 and a half or whatever it was, biggest head, biggest frame walleye I think that's probably ever been in my boat. But it must have just spawned like 2 days before that. It was shaped like a northern, but then just had this oak tree for a melon, and it just crushed a chatterbait in like must have been 4 to 6 feet. And I think that was the biggest walleye that hit my boat last year on a chatterbait.
Nice.
What's up, Fisher?
Speaking of that,
Forever.
I am going to see if I can pull this up once. We talked to Gusty a couple weeks back about the Z-Man stuff, and we're working with the boys over there. And one thing that I've kind of done for a lot of years is I had a good friend. His name was Steve Oates. He was the marketing director for Frabil, and he's a Southern boy, Missouri guy, and I think he lives now down in Arkansas on Bull Shoals or someplace down there. So he's a big bass guy, right? And he taught me how to fish plastics. We get out in the fall out on Winnebago and in the rivers, and we're using live bait, and I'm not catching hardly anything compared to what he's catching throwing big swim baits for these walleyes. And it really opened my eyes. And this goes back 20 some years ago, when we were doing this. I mean, nobody was fishing soft plastics like that for walleyes. And, the more and more you build the confidence on it, the more you want to use it, the more you want to try different things. And boy, I can't tell you the last time I've really used live bait for walleyes anymore. Everything is on, some sort of plastic. Now, granted, for slip bobber and stuff like that, we'll throw some leeches on or, whatnot. But for the most part, everything is on these plastics. I want to see if I can't bring up a picture here.
It gets addicting. It's like, yeah, I know they could eat a jig and minnow, and then you try to play around with fooling them, and then you realize like I can actually sometimes catch more fish, and definitely bigger ones. I mean, it seems like if you catch them snapping a plastic or whatever, they're always above average fish. But those bassy techniques is it's dirty. And that's the only reason I probably ever even started doing it is because I grew up a bass fisherman, and I love bass fishing. I mean, most people probably don't know I fish for bass probably 50% of the time I go out, and the other half is walleyes. And so anytime I can marry those two techniques and throw plastics or chatterbaits or bassy type things and catch walleyes, sign me up.
Yeah, it's not allowing me here for some reason. So let's, as long as we're talking about we're talking about chatterbaits. And I was talking with Corey Schmidt, and they've got a bait out there that is going to be a super game changer, especially on the Winnebago system, fishing this dirty water, getting up in the weeds. Anytime you fishing the river break, any of the river stuff, I think is going to be dynamite. It's called the Chatterbait Willow Vibe, and what it is a just looks like a standard jig head, like what we would use with plastics or a leech or crawler, and it's got a willow blade coming off the eyelet that creates that chatterbait. So you can put a swim bait on there. You can put, twister tail, anything really. and work that bait in some dirty water. And I have a feeling the walleyes are going to eat the snot out of this thing.
I've got a funny story actually. I got my hands on one of those last year. I don't think they were out yet, but I got like a little. I think I got 2 of them in the mail just to like, hey, these are coming out or new or whatever. And it was that Willow Vibes. I had a 3/8 ounce, and I put like a little 3 or 4 inch fluke style deal on the back, and I smoked some walleyes on it up shallow. The thing was nasty versatile if you can keep the bass off. I'd catch like 20 bass and then 1 walleye, and then 10 bass and then 1 walleye. But they were crushing it, and then I lost it to a pike. And so now I don't have one. So now that they're actually like available, I'm gonna have to get some. But yeah, it has just a sexy little wobble, and you can slow roll it and fish it in that 7 to 10 foot stuff if you want, or burn it shallower. Or it's cool. I think it's gonna be.
Is it? Are you able to see it? Is it up on the screen?
I don't see it on the screen.
I'm wondering how I can bring up the share ones on, because we only see what we're doing, but we'll see if it's actually up on the screen here.
While you're pulling that up, Andy Doan says, "What's the trick to Gull Lake walleyes for opener this year?" So last year on opener, we did really well pulling shallow crankbaits in 4 to 7 feet of water on sand, and casting rip and wraps on rocky points. Actually, it was after dark, like last year on opener, 5 to 9 feet of water. And we crushed them. But the water temperature last year was 54 degrees on opener for us. It's not going to be 54 this year. And that like rip and wrap 54, 55 is like money. So I'm curious to see, if we end up having, a lot can change between now and opener, but I'm just assuming it's going to be more like 44 to 46 degree water temperatures on the big lakes. They might not be doing that rattlebait bite as hot yet. I guarantee you'll still be able to troll that shallow sand after dark and catch fish, but I don't know. That's a good question. I wish I could tell you. I'm probably going to start out doing that and then slow down, but I don't know. The high water, a late ice out year, colder temps, it's usually a tougher fishing opener for walleyes, because normally the traditional ice out, water temps are in the low 50s, and the fish have already spawned. They're recovering, and they're back on the feed. Like once they're recovered, post spawn is the most aggressive bite probably all year. I mean, I can't speak for pre-spawn because we never have that in Minnesota. Season's always closed. But some of the other years where we've had late ice outs and colder temps, it's just been slower, tougher fishing. So I wish I had a good tip for you. If the water temps end up hitting that low 50s, don't be afraid to rip and wrap. But otherwise, I'm probably going to be throwing like paddle tails in that 6 to 10 foot stuff if I'm seeing fish, and slow rolling. And I'm hoping they'll be there and not off the edge, but it could also be really good. Late ice out, cold water. A lot of those males should still be flooded up in those shallows, and it'll just be whether or not the big females are there too, or if they're pushed off into the deeper water. So I'll keep you posted. There it is.
So
I wouldn't be
that
afraid
is
to get your own.
Yeah, that is the Willow Vibe from Z-Man. So I mean, it just looks awesome. And you can go on the website. They've got some videos and stuff showing how they're running it underwater. It's going to produce a lot of noise. It looks really nice. A lot of flashers, a couple different colors of the jigs too. But you put a swim bait or even a leech or a crawler or anything you want to on there, and that thing's going to be a deadly bait. I guarantee you I will be catching walleyes on that this year.
For sure. If I was able to catch a couple in Brainerd on it, I guarantee you can where you're at. They smoked it. And like I said, the only problem was keeping the bass off, which was a good problem to have.
Yeah. Now, have you caught smallies or just largemouth?
There was no, well, there are smallies on the lake I was on. It was actually gull last spring, but it was all largemouth. They were in the same kind of area, um, mouths of bays and channels and kind of like sandy points and sandy flats, and it'd be all walleyes. And then all of a sudden, if you found an area where that had some weeds that were either a little green or still standing, or even just if there was a weed clump, it'd be a million bass mixed in on it too. But
So
yeah, even slow rolling it on some of that sand stuff. I mean, they whack it when they eat it, and it's got just this awesome shimmy where you just feel the rod tip like just a perfect little vibration. So you know, like if you pick up a weed or anything, you can feel it stop and know to snap it. And yeah, it fishes nice. I cannot wait to play with it because I had only tried one plastic on it, and it worked. And until I lost it to that pike, so I haven't really got to like play around with it more than that like hour and a half or whatever.
sure. No, it's I there's a lot of application where I can see that that would be work. That's going to work. Even just the normal chatterbaits. When we're smallie fishing around here on some of the rivers, how many walleyes we catch on just a small white chatterbait. The walleyes just destroy those things.
Dude,
And
unbelievable.
I could see even trolling this thing. I mean, honestly, putting this thing down and just slow trolling it along the edges of the reefs is going to be a deadly. It's going to be a deadly bait.
For
So
sure.
now that we gave all the secrets out, we'll see how many people I got to compete with.
Walleye guys are stubborn though. They won't try a chatterbait, until they accidentally do it or go bass fishing and catch a 24 to 27-inch walleye in two casts in a row, and then they're like, "Oh wait," but it's like that can outfish a quarter ounce jig and a fathead,
Yeah,
And there's some days it can, and it's just when you catch one too, they're especially if you're throwing like a jackhammer chatterbait. Every walleye I've ever caught on that thing is the perfect under for a tournament, like 18 and a half to 19 and a half, or it's a 24 to 29 incher. Like they're always just tanks.
I want to get that guy from I think he's up in Alberta. That what no way guy
Well,
to do something with me. Bass. Catching walleyes on bass base. Like what? No
no
way.
way.
And then we go and whack some walleyes on some bass base. I think that'd be awesome.
That'd be hilarious. And there's the other one who's like, "You're telling me for 30 years haven't been doing whatever." Yeah, I love that. What?
Yeah.
No way.
What? And then we'll refrain from his other famous saying.
Yes. Jason Bauer's in here. He says trolling cranks on gull is a great plan. Hopefully, we'll have live bait for Minnesota opener. Yeah, I don't know if you were in here right away, Jason, but I mentioned that kind of when we first got on how it's scary. I had no idea we're one of two states that doesn't allow imported bait, and yeah, you're gonna have to sell a lot more crankbaits. But yeah, trolling cranks on gull early season is magical. And to go back to was it who asked Andy asked that question? If the bite is tough during the day on gull for opener, it's cold water, it's a tough bite, go out at 9 p.m. and fish until as late as you can stay awake, because every year that it's a tough bite to start out, like if we have walleye whackers out there, and there was one year I remember a 14-incher, one 14-incher won it out of 20 boats of local guides. But as we're all at weigh-in and getting ready to go home, you see about 6 boats pull into the access heading out at 9 p.m. And then they're catching 20, 30, 40 fish, trolling cranks. And I don't know what those things are doing during the day, but at about 9 o'clock, 9:15, 9:30, they suck up to that, 4 to 9 foot stuff, and it's game on. Yeah.
Jason, yeah, if you think you're shallow, go shallower.
Yeah.
100% agree. So let's just go off on a tangent here for a minute. The Winnebago system. I think Brett, when you guys were here last, was the last year that they had the 5 fish limit, and then they went to a 3 fish limit over here in the Winnebago system. And to me, I think it's the dumbest thing that they've ever done. They say that there's no walleyes, and their numbers and all their testing and netting and everything else that they do doesn't show the numbers. And granted, exploitation rates, were higher, but that doesn't mean that there's not, that amount of walleyes in there. And all these social, computer fishermen guys that go out and fish the same spots just on Saturday and Sunday that their grandpa showed them 20 years ago, and then they don't come home, or they come home and they don't catch any fish. They're bitching to the DNR and to everybody that there's no fish left in the lake. Well, I use this analogy all the time. Is we lost our shad. We lost one of our main forage bases that these walleyes have chased on our systems forever. I mean, that's been their primary food source next to some trout, perch, and, shiners and that, which cycle, but our shad has been our number one base. And that's why our system, these walleyes roam. They don't follow the rules of what every book that's been written for a walleye. Our fish have never read those books. They're illiterate as all can be. And they don't know the fact that they should be, on a reef just before dark, or, along the weed edge or anything like that. Nope. They've always just kind of been out in the mud flats, roaming around, chasing schools of shad. And, that's where you'd find them, other than in the springtime, when they're going through the rivers.
Mm-hmm.
So you take away that forage base, and, being a guide, we're out there every single day. And pretty soon, okay, we're not catching fish out in the mud flats anymore. These fish didn't just flat out disappear. They moved. They left. There's some place that we're not finding them, and boom, instant. Okay, fast mode kicks in, and let's go shallow. Walleyes got to eat. Where's our food? We've got a ton of bluegills. We've got a ton of perch and crappies, and all this new forage that is coming into our lakes because the zebra mussels have cleaned this lake up so much. We're getting weed growth out deeper. So we're starting to see a lot more, natural panfish up in the shallow waters. And that's where these walleyes have gone. So you take the DNR, they've got point A, B, C, D that they've been trawling on for 25 years, and they go and make their trawls, and, their numbers are down. Well, if you got a 200-acre forest, and you have 50 deer in that 200-acre forest, you go and clear cut that forest, the deer are probably not going to stay there. They're probably going to go try and find a new forest to live in because all their cover is gone. Yeah. The deer didn't die. They didn't go away. They just moved. So you could go back and do your counts in that forest that was clear cut as many times as you want, and those deer are not going to be there. Same thing with the walleyes. And as an angler, and what we found is that I can honestly say that 90% of my walleyes in the last 4 to 5 years have been caught in 4 feet of water or less. We don't fish the deep water anymore. Guys still go out and find those roaming schools in the middle of summer out over the mud flats, but the majority of the fish, they're up shallow. And like Jason said, if you think you're shallow, go shallower. I totally agree. I mean, there's plenty of days where we're casting baits up into a foot, 2 feet of water, and that bait no more than hits the water, and there's a walleye attached to it already. So
for sure,
you got to get away from what grandpa used to do with you and try new things and experiment. These fish are evolving in just about every lake you go to, around the country. Stuff and weather and everything that's happening here over the last 10 years is changing. It's changing the game. So you just gotta use an open mind and keep going out. And I know you guys, you have the fortune to fish with the legends of this sport. And I'm sure you guys are doing some different. What other tactics are out there that typically you don't see a walleye guy do that you guys are maybe, or, the Linder boys and what you guys are doing? I mean, fill us in.
Well, there's so many things, and I mean, I'm skewed because I'm a hybrid bass and walleye fisherman, so I'll even try things that are weird or out there. Actually, this is perfect timing. I was just putting away some swim baits. Something I'm going to play with this year. Think a walleye is going to eat one of these? I mean, I bought these for bass, but there are some people that are catching really big walleyes throwing baits like this. Actually, this one guy that I follow on Instagram, his name is Stephen Samuel. Let me just search real. It's like Natropis 110 on Instagram. But Stephen Samuel, he lives up in Ontario or Fort Francis or no, Toronto, somewhere outside of Toronto, and he throws 6 to 8 inch swim baits and crushes giant walleye. And he tries snap jigging, tries little swim baits and ringtails and grubs and stuff, and actually does better throwing big swim baits. And I wanted to start throwing some more for bass, but a walleye is going to devour a 6 inch perch, you know?
Gosh, yeah.
And they don't see the big baits around here. And there was this tournament one. No, wait, this wasn't the tournament thing. Last year, some leisure outdoor guides were filming a YouTube episode for muskies, and they were throwing like this 8 inch Poseidon or 10 inch Poseidon muskie bait on forward facing sonar, thinking they were targeting muskies, and they caught like 3 walleyes that were 28 to 31 inches on Leech Lake trying to shoot this episode last year. They're out there eating big tulibies or whatever, but same with up shallow, those fish that are eating perch. So I just went a little ham bone, getting all sorts of.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, how many times?
Hercules one, 6 inch, Elastec. So it's like, you know, you could probably stretch that thing 20 feet and it'd snap back. But I'm gonna try throwing some big 6, 7 inch glide baits, swim baits, and if I catch bass, cool. If I catch walleyes, cool.
Mr. Bluegill.
Yeah, you like that? I think that one's a Molix.
I need that for a keychain.
Oh, you gotta have some big pockets for this one. That's like a $50 keychain. That's why I only got this little this box. I'm like, if I buy enough to fill this up, I need to stop.
Yeah. Yep. You know, that's a big deal. How many times do we catch a big walleye, you know, even on Winnebago, and you put it in the live well and you come back 20 minutes later and, you know, there's a 7, 8 inch perch swimming around. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, we didn't catch that.
Right.
Even the guys this spring, you know, the last couple of weeks in these tournaments, these fish in the river, as many shiners as we got this year. And the shad have really started to come back. Actually, they came back. We've seen them this fall. These walleyes are still devouring a bunch of perch too. So throwing big swim baits is not a bad idea. It'll keep the small ones off.
Yeah.
And, you know, tournament guys and tournament fishing, you know, we're looking for those big ones anyway. So I can't see why they wouldn't eat something. I mean, they're already proven that they're eating big fish like that.
And stuff like that. It's if I catch one big walleye doing it, like
It's worth it.
You know. But I mean, that's an extreme example, but spy baits is another one. There's some days where I've done really well on it. I'm not good at it because I've only done it maybe, I don't know, I maybe got 6 days under my belt of trying to do it on purpose for walleyes, but there was days where it was the deal. And it's kind of a boring way to fish. You fish it like a hair jig. You just slowly reel it, and it's got those little props on it. It looks like a little like 3-4 inch jerk bait, except for it's got props and it doesn't do anything, and it's just suspended in the column. And you lose about half the fish you hook up with because it's tiny hooks and whatever. But for whatever reason, there were some days, specifically kind of like that post-spawn to early summer transition period last year, where it's like that's what they wanted. And I'm not good enough at it to talk about it. I was contemplating doing a video on it last year, but I'm like, I can't do a video on this when I've only thrown it 6 days. Like I want to know what I'm talking about first. But
Yep.
That's a really interesting one, and I don't know what would be different other than it's, you know, it looks like a little shiner or perch, and it's up in the middle of the water column and slow, but I don't know, just a different look, something they haven't seen.
So are you throwing, I know Jackal's got some, Berkeley, there's a few different companies that have them. I'm going to see if I can bring one up here and show some guys, because a lot of people don't know what these are. Again,
Yeah.
I learned about them, you know, just through my bass friends.
Yep.
Let's see.
Yeah, spin bait or spy bait. Over the last couple of years, a lot of companies have kind of added their own, you know, category or version of it, but it's like a little prop bait that They fall at about, you can get slow sinking or fast sinking versions. I think a fast one will fall about a foot per second. So you let it get down 6 feet down in the water column, wait 6 seconds, and slowly reel, low gear ratio. And yeah, I don't know. I half the fish I hook up with get off because they're tiny hooks and the prop like covers one of the hooks. But if half get off and they aren't biting anything else, the half you catch is still, you know, crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. There's
So
one.
that's what a spy bait looks like. It's a suspending, little blade bait. They don't have, like you say, they don't have very much motion at all. That thing is just slowly gliding through the water, and a very neutral bait.
And those look like big giant props, but I mean they just barely. It's the lightest, thinnest flutter. Like you breathe on it, and the thing's spinning so fast, it's like not. It's not putting off like a ton of movement or vibration. I don't even know how to describe it. You got to see one, but then it's got a little bit of a belly wobble like this, and you just the less you do, the better. And I don't know, it's like a 7.3, 7.6 medium light, some 6 pound braid, so you can try to cast that thing as far as you can. And yeah, hope you if you land half of the ones that you hook up with, you're killing it.
Nice. That 7.3 Elliott would do a good job on that bait.
That's a nasty rod. I said a comment the other day. 7.3 medium light. I don't think there's a better all around rod. Like if you're gonna buy one, you can do anything with it. You throw braid with a fluoro leader, and then all of a sudden you've got even more power. You throw mono on it. It's just for pitching jigs, for rigs, for whatever. So versatile. But for little finessey tactics and Ned rigs where you kind of want to like mush it up and do the reeling set instead of cracking them too, it's just I could talk for an hour about that thing.
Yeah, that's what's awesome is for guys that have never had a chance to pick that up, and they've got the all three models of rods, the 2B series, the 2B Genesis, and then the Elliott. All three of them come in that 7.3. So, if you can't afford the Elliott, jump down to a Genesis or a series. And I fish all three of them in my boat. And I'm going to be honest with you, when guys are fishing, a lot of the guys like that new series rod better than the other two. It just, for some guys, it fits really nice in their hand, and it fishes awesome.
They
So
killed
yeah,
me with
definitely.
that. I haven't gotten to fish with it. I bought one and just holding it, playing with it in the garage. $129 rod.
Yeah, 140, about 139. Yep.
Sure, 139. Amazing. It looks good. It feels good. I got it in a 7.3 medium light because I'm like, if I'm gonna just try one to see how I like it, that's universal. And I think they killed it with that. Uh-oh, I got family members talking a bunch of smack in the chat. First, we
So
my brother wondering how much money I'm going to lose in cross cribbage this weekend. We play like 5 a game or whatever, and he's never beaten me, so I don't know why he's talking smack. Because there's a computer screen in between us. Just kidding.
yeah. Oh, what's happening? Rylander's on Mr. Eelput himself.
And my dad, double what he says. My dad's in here chirping. Rylander. Hi, Terry.
So John asked about Ned rigs, and absolutely, so right now, if you're gonna give me, let's do top three baits, Brett. What three baits, artificials only, would you go out walleye fishing with? For me, I'm going to have a jig and wrap, or any sort of minnow style bait, sugar minnow, whatever. I'm going to have a Ned rig, and then probably some sort of casting crankbait. But I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm going out and I have fish on my sonar and I can see them, I'm going to throw a Ned rig to them most of the time. We fish Ned rigs a ton on the Winnebago system. You can fish them in the river, fish them out in the reefs, fish them in the weeds. It doesn't make a difference. That is an extremely versatile bait for catching walleyes.
Without a doubt. If there's one bait I could put on any time of year, any lake, it's a Ned rig. And I mean, you can switch it up to make it look like whatever forage you want, fish it in 2 feet, fish it in 20 feet. It's just so versatile. But like a 3/16 ounce head with a 4-inch Z-Man big TRD in that purple goby, I have one of those tied on no matter what lake I'm going to all year round. If it's shallow sand and rock, perfect. If it's 15 to 17 foot where the cabbage tapered off and it's coontail, perfect. If it's, they
Yep.
eat it everywhere. It can look like perch. You can drag it on the bottom with a regular TRD or craw, and it's a crayfish. You can fish it in the middle of the water column, and that's like they were actually originally designed to be fished like a spin bait or spy bait, like we talked about, like suspended in the middle of the water column with really light jig heads. And that's kind of changed over the last couple of years, but that's how Ned Katie originally developed them for. And like you can do that when fish are feeding up. And that's another big thing. Like around here, I especially noticed it last year. Some days fish are feeding up, some days they're feeding down. And the days that they are feeding down, you will piss off the buddy in the back of the boat throwing an 1/8 ounce jig with a shiner to the point he wants to go home. If you're throwing a Ned rig and they're feeding down and you're dragging that thing and just hopping it on bottom, and he's like, this is the perfect 3-4 inch lake shiner, silver shiner, even a red tail on an 1/8 ounce jig. That thing's just swimming alive down there, and you can watch him on live scope, not even look at it, but go straight down the bottom and crush a Ned rig. It's like I'm like giddy thinking about it right now because it's my favorite bite of the year.
It is so much fun. If you've never fished Ned rigs, you're missing out. There is, and the thing with plastics and versus live bait, live bait, right? We're fishing and it'll be that, oh, tap, 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 or, oh, yeah, he might be there. When you're fishing a Ned rig or a swim bait or anything like that, you're doing whatever you're doing, every type of motion, bam. I mean, there's no, oh, is there a bite? No. They inhale those plastic baits. It's a much more aggressive bite than in the past. There's nothing better than throwing, I throw a 3/8 thumper. I wish Northland still had their tails. That pink, what the heck was the name of that? Anyway, they're little like grub tail, and just ripping that thing as hard as you can. And as soon as that thing would start to fall, you'd watch the line go whoop, straighten right out, reel down, and just crack it to them.
For
and
sure.
Every time you'd bring in a bait, a fish, that bait wasn't here. It's like down completely in its stomach.
There's no better feeling. I mean, live bait, time and a place, plastics, time and a place, but yeah, sign me up for a Ned rig 365 days a year. You know what? I have not caught a walleye ice fishing with a Ned rig, but I bet you could. I should have done that this year just to cross it off the bucket list.
Yeah.
But open water, can't beat it.
Now, Gussie showed us that hula sticks last or 2 weeks ago or last week or whatever it was. Have you tried or played around with that yet?
For sure. And they crush it. I like that when it's more crayfish because it's got that, the little tentacles on the end. And it looks like a crayfish down there because it floats, it stands up. And I mean, I know it's not the crayfish profile and they have actual crayfish baits, but it's just a versatile one that you can make look like a perch or a crayfish or whatever. And that crushes him. I know that's his favorite. He and I have talked about that before. And mine is just, it's got to be the big TRD in that purple goby, just confidence thing,
Yep.
I'd love to see like side by side which one they'd choose, but you got to fish what you're confident in. So I'm going big TRD.
Well, I know I got a bunch of the hula sticks ordered up here, and I can't wait to try that one. What I think that I'm going to like about that one a little bit more is because we do fish quite a bit more in current by us. And I just think, as we're hopping that down through the rocks or along the weed edges in the current seams, those little tentacles might help trigger a little bit more. And I'm
Yeah,
sure the sheephead are gonna love the snot out of those things too.
that's right. You got a pile of those.
Oh man, we got a lot of them.
Yeah, I would listen to Gussie though. Like that dude spends more time doing it than anybody, and he's obsessed with walleyes. He'll go out walleye fishing for fun when he's at home in between. He can't this time of year, but when he's waiting for the next Bass Elite stop, he'll go out and smack a bunch of Lake of the Woods walleyes on Ned rigs, and yeah, the hula is deadly. What do we got? Rylanders chirping in here. Aren't Ned rigs nerdy? Oh, I love that guy.
So let's see. Ned's on the Bago, shoreline, rock, sand, reefs. John, you can throw those Ned rigs everywhere. We throw them under the bridges, in the middle of the river. We throw them up on sand flats. We're throwing them along the shorelines, in the weeds. They've got Z-Man's got a weedless, jig for a Ned head. So that you can literally throw that bait anywhere you want to. It is that versatile. And let's see, your Ned rig's easily hung up in the weeds. With that weedless one, you can fish that. But even without the weedless one, you got to remember, typically where the walleyes are going to be in those weeds, they're going to be down kind of in the stalks, swimming around near the bottom. So it's usually a lot more openings. And if you got something kind of bouncing around down in, next to those stalks, you're really not going to get caught up in a whole lot of things. And they fish very well in the weeds.
They really do. For being an open hook, it's actually deceiving. But also, you use 8-pound or 10-pound braid with a fluoro leader, and if you get hung up in a little bit of weeds and you snap it out of there, when that thing crashes down, like shoots out of the weed and crashes down, you get bit. So like sometimes I will literally cast and try to get it hung up in a cabbage stalk on the edge of a pocket or something, and then snap it out of there. And if you just have 8 or 10-pound braid, 2-3-pound diameter, it just slices through with a snap of a rod. But yeah, they come through weeds so well. It's so weird because you look at it and it's an exposed hook. Like why? How would that work?
But with that hook sitting, vertical like that, as you're, dragging it through, it's not coming at you and hooking onto things. It's pretty much staying parallel with the weeds, so you can really work it through those weeds. Oh yeah, hey, did you ever try pulling flies anywhere after we went out and did that fly thing?
I have been wanting to, and I haven't done it yet. I'm going to. I will. I really want to do it on gull or something. The whole only having one bait or one line, one bait thing is the only reason I haven't done it yet. Just because it's hard to think like having that one tiny little fly down there, but I'm going to, and I will let you know how it works. Because I know it's a river thing or whatever, but walleyes eat hair jigs,
Yeah.
I mean, they eat 3/8 ounce hair jigs, they eat 16th ounce hair jigs. The lighter, the better sometimes in cooler water. And it's just like, how many walleyes in central Minnesota have seen a fly go by them? Like, they're going to eat that thing. Whether it's up shallow or I'm thinking like the summer, fall, once all of a sudden walleyes become easy to catch on gull about the third weekend in September, you go all year, you don't see any because they're up really shallow, up buried in the weeds all year. And then about the third weekend in September, boom, they show up on your graph because they pull out to that outside edge. Like, man, when those guys are pulling creek chubs and stuff, I bet you could just scoot, pump a fly down there past. And I think it'd be killer. I got to try it, and I'm embarrassed I haven't yet.
Oh, do you guys get like any fly hatches or any mayfly hatches or anything up by you where these walleyes feed on?
Big time. Midges, mayflies. Yeah, there's just it's like every week there's another hatch of something, especially on lakes like Mille Lacs. But you see it on other lakes around here too.
Sure.
And
I don't see why it wouldn't work. I mean,
right.
Just casting a 3-way. You don't have to pull it. Just cast a 3-way and work it back through those, through those rocks and stuff. I think would work wonderful.
You send me a message with what flies I need to get.
And I'll just send you some. I've been tying pretty much every single night Um, just getting ready because we're into the heat of the fly pulling
Yeah.
and that right now with our white bass run and the walleyes, and we're gonna go through a lot of flies. So just text me what address you want me to send them to, and I'll send you some good colors and send up some of those, and yeah, just let me know how they work. Curious to see if
Deal.
they work in the lake.
I'll barter. I'll dig around in the garage. I'll figure out something to send back in return.
No
And
worries, no
I
worries there.
um
Mid late summer walleyes buried.
ooh.
Buried in the weeds. What's your guys' approach? Thick, dirty weed stuff.
Well, one thing Rylander's
So
really good at is pulling a crawler over the top of them and having them come
yes,
out and crush it. And plastics are a lot of fun, but man, I've watched that guy pull crawlers through that stuff, and I don't know, be pretty tough to keep up with.
so we use a lot of Salmos on our system over here. Those little, number four, those hornets make a
Mhm.
lot of noise. And we had one of the most epic weed bites last year that I've ever seen. And the tournament guys, it's once these fish moved in springtime or at the end of the spawn, I don't think they left all summer long. I mean, every day, even guiding, if we had the right wind, we got up into these weeds, and you look at it, it's like, man, how are you even going to fish this? They're just maybe 8-10 inches underneath the surface.
Yeah.
And all we did is took 14, 16-foot cane poles with small little Salmo hornets, took the bottom hook off, so just had the back trailing hook. And we pulled it real slow over the tops of those weeds. And those walleyes came out of the water and hit those baits so hard. We're like, oh, you see that largemouth? They come up and hit. No, they're walleyes. They're just coming up that fast and that hard, slamming those baits. It's crazy. I mean, it's a cool bite. And then guys do a lot of spinners. I hate fishing live bait. I don't like the mess in my boat. I
Yeah.
don't like all the cleaning up afterwards. So if I can catch something on artificial, that's what I'm gonna do. But there's some guys that are really, really good at doing kind of the same thing with lawn king poles or just long trolling rods, pulling spinners right over the tops of those weeds. And again, though, when they hit it, man, it's game on.
I kind of cheat when we got really thick weeds with walleyes around here because I've got live scope, and so I look for pockets in them, and I'll cast a swim bait or a Ned rig, and the pocket might be this big or whatever, a 1 foot, 2 foot opening, but if you can get dialed with, okay, 47 feet that way, there's a pocket, you can see something moving down in the bottom of it, and plop a Ned rig in there or a swim bait. And when it drops down in that hole, you don't even have to move the bait. And if you do, it's like the second it changes directions, they eat it. And then you just got to wrench them out of there. But ripping big swim baits and thick weeds is fun too. It's just a lot of work. But those big, like 3/4 ounce head, 3.5 inch, 4 inch swim bait, you're using bigger 15-pound braid, 15-pound fluoro, medium heavy rod, and you snap as hard as you can and let it crash back down, and snap as hard as you can and let it crash back down. And you when you catch one, it's going to be big, but you are earning that fish.
Yeah.
Popeye arms.
Yeah.
I'm like cramping up in a Charlie horse thinking about it.
um, what about you, Rylander? What are you using for stuff like that? You're asking the questions, but I know you do it just as well. Share your. It says prefer to confirm my confidence, guys. Yes, sir. He's a heck of a stick too. That guy is one heck of a fisherman.
Oh, I forgot about it. Another technique because I'm a bass fisherman. I've caught so many walleyes flipping a Texas rig craw tube into a weed pocket for largemouth. It is ridiculous.
No kidding.
Yeah, in like a black neon or watermelon red 4 inch craw tube. And the head, it depends how thick the weeds are. If you're like actually punching 3/4 or 1 ounce tungsten, but usually it's like that 3/8, ½ ounce, 5/8, and flipping it in cabbage and coontail pockets, fish and largemouth. And I'll catch 3 walleyes in one day sometimes wall bass fishing on a Brainerd area lake, flipping a craw tube in like 6 to 10 foot cabbage weeds and coontail and thick stuff that like you're using Texas rig and 50-pound braid, and walleye eats it. So I don't think I'd have the stones to pull that off in a tournament, but on accident for bass is kind of cool.
Sure. You know, when the crayfish start molting around on the Winnebago system, you know, any of that bass stuff, we throw a lot of tubes if we're out smallie fishing. You know, we just throw tubes in. Again, the amount of walleyes we catch on tube jigs fishing smallies is ridiculous. You know, the days you go out, you want to catch smallies, and then all you catch are walleyes. Is pretty cool. I had it's Mark Fisher, right, from Rapala.
Yeah.
He came here one year, and he went out. Him and I were out in the boat, and he was pre-fishing for a tournament, and he was doing all kinds of crazy search things that they do, you know, looking for bass. You know, long stick baits and just long line and through these reefs and through some of these flats, and you know, just crazy stuff that you know, looking for bass. And lo and behold, all we were catching were walleye. So again, you know, just you know, keep your open mind and use some of these bass techniques and watch what these bass guys do. And um, granted, they're bass fishing, but you know, these walleyes are predators. They're just going to eat whatever they can. And if you throw something down that looks like what's supposed to be there, they're going to eat it.
Well, and they don't see as many baits, right? Walleye guys are scared to go up
Yeah.
shallow in the weeds, 90% of them. And that's why, like, Gull Lake is an example around here. In the fall, you just hear of everybody crushing fish, and tournament weights are huge and whatever. And that's because those fish show themselves finally. Like, you'll go all summer and like you'll come across pods here and there and see some, but like then they start coming out of those weeds as the water temps drop and some of the perch are pulling out. And it's like, holy crap, where are these fish all year long? Well, they're up where you can't graph them. You just have to fish to get them, fish to find them. And that's what's so hard. It's like you can't just idle at 5.5, 6 miles per hour with side imaging 90 feet out to the sides and go, there they are. You got to fish through that area, work a bait through there efficiently and catch one, and then like pinpoint what's going on. And that's the hard thing. The only way to do it is to fish it, and it takes time, and it's dirty, and it's hands-on, and you got to strike out a million times before you hit it. But if there was an easy way to side image weeds that come up to the surface and see the fish in there, sign me up, I guess. Maybe we got to play with perspective mode more or something. But Jason Barr put a comment on there. Try pulling tungsten through the weeds of the spinner. So I'll try to keep this short, but I fished with them on a lake around here. Maybe it wasn't last summer, a couple summers ago. Really thick weeds where people were pulling spinners over the tops of the weeds because they came up to a couple feet under the surface. But there's a million little bluegills pecking at your bait all the time. You can't fish for more than, even if you're going 1.5 miles per hour, you know. And I hopped in with him, or he hopped in with me, and he was using the bass tungsten. Like, we took it out of the bass box, ounce and a half tungsten weight that you'd use for punching, flipping weights, and would use that when everybody else is using 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce max, 1/8 ounce, 16th ounce, and going through the tops. He's purposely using like an ounce and a half weight to drive down through those weeds and pull that bait like right through the middle of them. And he won our local walleye league doing that. And I was trying to pitch plastics around the same area. And I don't know if I caught any that night or not, but I know he won. And I was like, what are you doing? How are you getting those fish? You know, and that was, hopefully he's okay with me telling this, but that's how he did it. Ounce tungsten, and I guess he was doing it to get through all the bluegills that were up on the top and get down to the walleyes. And yeah, I mean, you'll get weeds on or whatever, but you pull it out and keep moving and go faster. But yeah, no 7 to 15 feet of water with a bunch of weeds, everybody's always using the lightest Lindy weight that they can. And he did the exact opposite. And it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense, actually. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a really cool experience that, I don't know, you got to just play with stuff, right? Try different things. If you see a million articles on the internet that say to use this weight or do that, like that's a great guideline, but you can't duplicate playing on the water and trying different things. And
Well, that's how a lot of this stuff is developed, is by taking something over here that's standard, playing around with it, figuring something out, making your little fine adjustments and developing something like, like that willow vibe. I can't imagine, how that thing's going to work pulling over the tops or pulling through the weeds. That thing is going to be incredible, especially when you get those heavy windy days where the wind, has stirred up the water and everything's chocolate milk. They're going to be able to key right in on that
yeah,
chatterbait, and it's going to be lights out. I'm so, I don't get too excited about all kinds of new stuff. We get to see it, but that's going to be one that I think is going to put a lot of fish in the boat this year.
for sure. And then when I saw that thing in the water, I instantly was like, do they make like a 1 ounce version? I don't think I don't know if they do or not, or I don't know what the biggest size is, but I'm like, dude, if they made like a 1 ounce that you could fish in that deeper jigging wrap water, 24, 28 feet of water, and slow roll and keep that chatterbait profile vibration down there where they've never seen it. I mean, maybe you could cut the old jig head off and put your own on or whatever. There's got to, and maybe they'd add it to the lineup if it does well. Because I mean,
Sure. So they've. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know they've got a lot of different options, and I know like on the bass side too, they've got like a football jig version and stuff to fish out deeper. And I mean, if they don't have like a heavy one like that, that's a walleye profile. I mean, they're adding so many SKUs and stuff, and I think they listen to people pretty. They soak in feedback when people are
Yep.
commenting and stuff. I could see them adding it, but I know it kills it shallow and dirty water and up weeds and stuff, but I'm just like, man, that chatterbait profile, that little shimmy, walleyes love blades, love spinners. How would you like to sling that, slow roll that past fish that everybody else is throwing jigging wraps at,
Yep. No, it's gonna be a deadly bait. They've got. You go back, boy, my days when I started with 13 fishing. There was a guy there by the name of Jose Chavez, and Jose went from 13 as a bait designer, and then he went over to Savage, and now he's with Z-Man. So I can't imagine what he's going to be able to come up with and what's going down the chute. Jose's a pretty talented dude.
Yeah, talk creative genius.
Yeah, he's a good fisherman too.
All those guys are like Corey Schmidt. He'll be over on the Mississippi whacking walleyes and smallies, and I've never hopped in the boat with him or had him been in the boat with him or whatever. And I think he just lives like 4 miles away from me or something.
Who's that?
Corey Schmidt was he, man?
Oh, Corey. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like.
Yeah, you guys are right there.
Yeah.
I think it was, like I said, I was trying to get a hold of him tonight, see if we couldn't get him on, but I didn't. Let's see, check my emails again. No, he didn't reply. We'll have him on one of these weeks and sit and have him talk about some of the cool stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a fun summer. We're looking forward to it. If Mother Nature would ever get back to normal here and give us some actual good temperatures and no wind. It just seems like every time we turn the corner, we had 90 degree. I had 2 90-degree days here. Last week or whatever that was. We had 91 2 days in a row. And then, you get to the weekend and it's 24 and we get 3 inches of snow. It's just stupid. 90 degrees in April's, just it's unheard of.
I always think of that meme from it's like Whose Line Is It Anyway with Drew Carey or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, welcome to the Midwest where the seasons are made up and whatever. It's so
Yep.
true. Smell like in shorts one day, and the next day, well, just like a week ago, I was in shorts, and then the next day, I'm like, today I'm gonna rake all the dead grass in my yard, and that was when I opened my blinds, and we had gotten like 6-7 inches.
Yep.
I had no idea it was coming, and this was the day I'm gonna rake. Like I have shorts on, and I'm opening my door, and it's okay, I'm a little off here.
Yeah. It's exactly it. I had my flip flops on, fishing in a shirt or t-shirt and shorts. One little funny story. So the new boat this year, I went with an Ultrex versus the Altera, and not, I guess, paying attention. When you lift up the Ultrex, it's got that stabilizer pole that goes down onto your deck.
Mhm.
So I pull it up and put it down right on my toe. No, I was barefoot in the boat and smashed my big toe. Oh, you want to talk about learning a lesson really quick? Now everything stays clear of that little circle pad on my deck. I know not to go anywhere near that.
You know what? I'd sacrifice the toe over a rod.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
because that's gonna happen too. You could take that thing off of there. It seems
Yeah.
like you need it, but then when I took mine off, and it's like that thing doesn't even flex. But I'm not on as big a water as you either, so
That's the thing, is when we're running the big water, I just don't want to take that chance of
yeah.
breaking something or busting something off. But yeah, you're right. I watch my rod tips. I watch my feet, everything. No, nothing goes around that little bullseye that I have on the floor.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, John. Thank you for the questions and stuff too. I'm sure you followed John Balla's do the stats he puts out on like NWT tournament results and stuff, and finishes over the year and techniques, and his breakdowns are so cool. I'd nerd out
Yeah,
about
that's awesome. I'm
every one of
excited. I've talked to the wife. I think I'm gonna sign up for the NWT here on Winnebago. So if you're
them.
not doing anything, you want to come out and pre-fish or hang around, you're more than welcome. We got the
What?
boathouse pretty well ready to live in now, so this is got plenty of place for guys to come and hang out.
When is it on Winnebago?
The 17th and 18th of May, I think, is the tournament days.
I thought it was the next one up. Okay.
Yep. So I just tell the wife it's an investment.
Well, if you're in the industry, at least it's you can write some of it off, so it's not a complete loss. I mean, it's
Yeah.
out of your pocket.
So the last time that they came here, I had to sign up as an amateur because my boat wasn't ready yet. So it sucked, and that was the year that we had such a good bite going. And now this year, I know if I wouldn't do it, I know I'd regret it. So I'm gonna go and try it. And you got to turn the guide mode off and go to tournament mode, which is real hard to do.
Mhm.
But I'm going to be fishing with Danny Plouts. He's going to come down. We're going to kind of team up, and we'll conquer. And we're just going to go have fun. We're going to take it pretty serious, but at the end of the day, we're just going to go have fun.
Yeah, for sure, man. I get so stressed out and worked up, even if it's like a 25 boat local league. I'm like, I'll sit in my boat for 4 hours the night before, rigging rods and putting on all new leaders, and it's like I didn't even use this rod in between this new leader. Like, why am I redoing 24 double uni knots with fresh leaders? 2-hour league, and like when I actually jump in a tournament, it's the same thing. It's like I don't sleep, I obsess, and then it's like, yeah, you either kill it or you get your butt kicked, and it didn't matter either way, and it's a blast and a learning experience. And it's so funny, the times where I've done well in any tournaments is the ones that I've pre-fished the least for, I'm the least prepared, and it's like those are the ones where you just kill it. And the ones where I think I'm just dialed, I got everything, I've went out pre-fishing, this is the bait, this is the whatever, and rig up 6 rods with that one thing on it in different variations, and then come in with 0. So it's like, yeah, go have fun, just catch fish, and you'll learn something either way. Somebody always catches them. That's a cool thing. Even on the toughest bite, somebody in that field's going to catch them and catch the heck out of them. and to learn what they did and why. And then you think back, that's the worst part. You think back during your day and the clues that you saw, that it's like, now that I'm hearing this, the things I saw make sense. I love that. It's fascinating. I hate it, but I love it.
Yep. Even if you do, I always look at it as like, okay, yep, I'm a guide. I should be out there. I should be the one, or people think that, you should be the one winning it. Why don't you do it? Why aren't you winning? Well, it's a totally different ballgame. Tournament fishing versus guiding. We're going off looking for numbers, and a lot of times those numbers are smaller, eater size fish. And where the guys doing the tournaments, they're looking for few fish but big fish. And a lot of times those fish are on two opposite sides of the
Right.
spectrum. So every once in a while, everything comes together, and it works out. And what's crazy is on the tough years where no fish are biting, and if we're out there guiding, yeah, we know where all the fish are. And those are the years that we do really well in tournaments,
Yeah,
when nobody can catch any fish. At least we can go and still catch a bunch of legals and bring some fish to the stages. So
for
it'll
sure.
be fun. It'll be exciting. And the one thing with me though is I don't get worked up. It's for me, the adrenaline of going out and hanging out with friends and seeing everybody is probably there's probably more of that than it is the competition. I know
Mhm.
I don't like to get wrapped up in egos and stuff like that. I just like to go out and fish and have fun. We're gonna turn on my tournament partner, Corey and I, for a lot of years. We get out on the boat, and it was Weird Al Yankovic polkas. I've got two subwoofers in the boat, so we're dancing, we're having fun. And just it can change your mood and get you into that positive state. If the fishing's tough, things aren't going right, it's like, all right, we got to turn on some Snoop, or we got to turn on some Eminem, or we got old school rap. And we're busting out on the deck, and we're smiling, we're having fun again. And it seems like when you can have fun and be positive, the fish just kind of come naturally. If you're angry and down on yourself and whatnot, you tend to not do what you want to do. And I don't know, it's all about having fun, right?
Absolutely. Rylander commented and said, we won on skill and lots of luck. The last time I won an actual tournament, not just like a little league or whatever, I never win those. I get my butt kicked by the locals. But I was fishing a fall walleye classic on Pelican Lake with Rylander, and I tried to tell him that we should not fish it because we weren't going to have any time to pre-fish. And I was out there 2 weeks earlier for a local league, and I got skunked, or maybe caught one. Only caught one 14-inch fish or something. I'm like, dude, we can't fish this tournament. We're going to get our butts kicked. And we just were like, what the heck? He was in town. Let's do it just for the fun of it. And that was the one that we won. And it's like we had no fish going. We didn't know what to do. Our crap was all over the place because we had fished a tournament the day before. It was the biggest mess, least organized ever. And it worked out perfectly. And it's like, okay, well, I guess you just never know. And then Jeremy Nines, drop shot, pencil reeds, and sand. That's an inside joke. I probably shouldn't vent on that one. He and I were fishing a bass league that was like an MLF format. It was only a 3-hour thing, and every fish you caught, you weighed. And I think we had like 60 pounds or something in 3 hours. And yeah, the team who caught 70 some pounds and beat us, or maybe we got second or third, or said that they were using a drop shot in like 2 feet of water in pencil reeds on spinning gear. And it's like, yeah, okay. Sure you were. And I saw where they were fishing, and I've fished those reeds 100 times, and there's never been a bass bigger than 10 inches in those pencil reeds, ever.
As the guy would say, what? No way.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, so what's going on at Target Walleye? You're doing the top five every week. That's pretty awesome. Everybody loves the content. Yeah. What do you guys got going on over there?
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, just We got those new top 5 videos out, or I guess they're probably not even new anymore. It's almost been a year.
Yeah.
Feels like we just started them, but yeah, gonna try to do more video stuff this summer. I know I said that last summer, but gonna try to pick up the number of YouTube videos and got to pump those numbers up, right? But yeah, just it's been a blast. Busy, good, excited for more open seasons and open water to start bringing more fresh new stuff in the email. It gets kind of tough during the off season when ice is going bad and seasons aren't open, and it's like, oh, I just put together this newsletter yesterday. How am I? And I scratched every corner I could possibly dig into to come up with content for it. How am I going to get a new one tomorrow? Like, but now people are fishing and seasons are opening up, and yeah, we'll start having content flood in, and it'll get a little easier.
Nice. Well, the one thing that we are fortunate with over here in Wisconsin is our walleye season never closes. So, we're blessed on that part of it. I get a lot of clients, once your guys' season closes, a lot of people from Minnesota, Iowa, they typically come up and start fishing over here. And then this year, for more than anything, we had ice out on the Fox River back in February, and guys were just waylaying on fish in the Fox up by De Pere. I mean, it was just a crazy amount of fish that were being caught. And then one season, I think at that point, it was 3 fish you could keep. So everybody's going out just pulling limits of these big giant fish out of the river. And then come March 1st, season closes, 1 fish over 28. And for the most part, unless you truly get a big giant, even the 28, 29, 30s, most people put them back and let them do their thing. I wanted to talk to you once, and maybe John, or any of these walleye gurus. I've never seen anything like this before, but when we were up in O'Connell here a week and a half ago, that whole week, we were in the 80s and 90s, right? And the water temperature, prior to that was like 38 to 40 degrees. We hit that week where it just went into the 80s and 90s, and in a matter of 6-7 days, that water temperature climbed all the way up to mid to high 50s. We even found some pockets of 60, 61 up in some really shallow water. But what was crazy is when we were fishing at the mouth of the O'Connell River, it seemed like mid-morning, all of a sudden a big wave of fish started coming down out of the river. And the amount of 28 to 30 inch walleyes upside down, floating down the river, half alive, was breathtaking. We were trying to net them and revive them, but I think they got so stressed out from spawning and, the drastic increase in water temperature. I think it just stressed them out because they weren't all being caught. But what was sad to see is all these seagulls and stuff coming down and picking the gills and picking the eyeballs out of these giant walleyes that are half alive.
Right.
You made us want to go around and net them all and try and get them into live well and revive them to send them back out. But with the laws and regulations, we were pretty limited on what we could do. It was just super sad to see it. And I'm hoping it doesn't take a big effect, but it was countless big fish just floating down the river out into the lake, and nothing you can do about it.
Dude, that's crazy. I've never heard of that. It's like when you got a bag of shiners from the bait shop and you dump them into a bucket where the water's warmer or colder and they get shocked, and you need that time for them to adapt or whatever, and they'll come back with the right time and whatever, but not when seagulls are pecking at them. And that's crazy though, to have that drastic of a temperature change that actually shocked those fish. And
yeah,
I'm sure being post spawn week too, that's crazy.
yep.
Never heard of that.
It was super sad. I mean, and you're only allowed 1 fish over 15 inches. So rather than let some of those die, we already had our 18, 19 inch eaters that the guys were going to take home. So it's like you just want to put those back and at least take one of those big chunkers and save it and make use out of it rather than feed it to the birds. But Yeah, super sad. But what are you gonna do? Mother Nature takes care of herself. She
Right.
rules the roost, and we learned that this year for sure with our winters. That all the years of doing this, I still haven't figured out how to control the weather.
Yeah, no kidding. Please do and let me know. Keep me posted.
Well, cool. For people that want to follow you, Target Walleye on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Sign up for the emails. You can go on Target Walleye's website, sign up for the email blast that you send out. And if you got some pictures of some big giant walleyes, forward them over to Brett. I know he'd love to put them on. I think you call it your big uns. Um, and yeah, you guys are doing awesome over there, and keep up the good work. And I think, well, if you can get over here and fish, feel free. But I think we'll probably see you here in July down on. You're gonna be down at ICAST, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
So we'll be down there this year and exciting new products and get a chance to see everybody. Hopefully, we'll get back to some normalcy here after all the
Right.
COVID crap.
Yeah, no doubt. I need normalcy. I need to get back in the boat. Yeah, no, man, I appreciate it. I could chat walleye fishing all night, and especially when you like doing kind of off the wall stuff too, like I do, and it's like I could talk for 20 hours just about big swim baits or chatter baits or whatever. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm sure we'll chat. But good luck at the NWT. That's going to sneak up fast. I mean, two, three,
Oh,
3 weeks.
yeah, we're only 2.5 weeks away, or yeah, 2 to 3 weeks away. So yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to try some of this new stuff, and hopefully something like that works and can make a big difference. Just like you say, it's stuff that the walleyes have never seen before. So anytime you can have that edge that nobody else has is definitely what makes or breaks a tournament for some guys.
For sure. We'll never settle. I mean, we're always going to want to keep trying, tweaking, changing, new. There's the classics that will always catch fish, but there's just something special about just trying to do something better or different or whatever.
Hey, pioneers of the sport, man. That's it. You got to be different.
Heck yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, stay in touch. We're going to have to get in the
Thanks,
boat
Brett.
again. It's been too long.
Yeah, for sure. I think the last time I got up there and fished with anybody, I was in the boat with Jeremy and who else? But we were drinking Keystones.
Oh, that's a good lake too, by the way.
Shamano?
I was talking about the one that's a couple over Alexander.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one too. It was on our local walleye league list, but they took it off because it's just a little too far, and it's like no. Yeah, let me
Oh,
know if you're back up here, and we'll be in touch. Or I gotta get your way next spring and fish some of those flooded trees again, and that was so fun. That
oh,
was
that you on the raft that time? That was a hoot.
insane. Maybe next spring
15
we can
years.
figure something out.
Well, I think this summer I'm gonna do a trip someplace up there and just come up and say hi to everybody, and I'll get a hold of you, and yeah, we can try and sneak out in the boat and go do some fishing up by you.
Awesome, sweet man. I
Cool.
appreciate
All
it.
right. Thanks, Brett. We'll catch you later, and say hi to the boys and everybody up there for me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Troy.
Yep. Have a good night.
Thanks everybody for taking the time to comment and ask questions. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. A lot of great comments, and this thing gets rebroadcast, and people watch it, and they'll sit and listen to it at work. All my third shift guys that go in at 11 o'clock will rewatch it again, and they'll keep on it here for the next couple of days. So, all good stuff, and watch more. Go tune into Target Walleye and see what else they got going on.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Cool. We'll catch you later.
All right. Thank you.
All right, so thanks for Brett for joining. Now we can talk a little bit about what's happening around here. John just asked on the early season White Bass info. Yes, John, they are thicker than last year I thought was good. I think we're going to have a really good run this spring. The other day, I launched in Winneconne. We fished in Winneconne for a little bit, had fish in Winneconne, drove all the way down to Oshkosh and fished down in Oshkosh in the river. We had fish there, and then came back up and went as far up as Fremont. And, it seemed like from about the Rat down in the some of the deeper holes, there were already some fish showing up in the Wolf too. So the Fox River going through Amaro and Eureka last week was on fire. There's still quite a few fish up there. That water temperature really came back down. I think we're back into the upper 40s, low 50s. With how cold this water's been, but it's going to be a great run. I'm looking forward to it. We've had a couple really good days already. I think the last day, we had 70, close to 70 fish, and we didn't we yeah. So John and anybody, when the water's cold like this, they're gonna be um, they're going to be deep. You're going to find them in the deeper holes or on those, those current humps, those current seams going up. They're going to be in that deeper water. Look for that 14, 16 feet of water, typically is what I'm looking for. And, we're just casting fly rigs. I was actually casting some blade baits too and catching them on blade baits. But it's super hard this year because of how fast the current is. The current is just ripping down the middle of these river channels. So the best thing that we tried and what was working was like a 3/4 to 1 ounce bell sinkers or pencil sinkers on a fly, on a 3-way rig, and casting it like kitty corner upstream and working it back until it got to, halfway or 3/4 of the way down past the drift. Because once it got past the boat, the current was so strong that it would lift it up, and you couldn't really get it back down to the bottom of where the fish were at. But once you find, use your electronics, guys. That's can't stress it enough when you're looking for those schools of bass. Just going up and down the river. Use your side imaging, and you'll see them. I mean, they're pretty thick, and when you see it, the schools and you see pods of fish, stop, fish them. You might get lucky and get a bunch of them, and you might strike out, and you got to go on to the next school. But don't be afraid to look in those inside bends of the corners too, where the water's slack. When the sun hits and starts warming up those waters, and then any of that slack water, those fish are gonna go right to that because of how strong the current is. And then at that point, you can cast swim baits, you can cast little tubes, you can cast spinners, or just lighter flyweight or fly rig too. And it's an incredible bite. When that happens, when things start to warm up. But our forecast doesn't look all that bad. I think we're gonna have a nice cooler couple weeks here now, so it's not gonna go crazy like what we thought it was going to here last week or the week before when it got super warm. So we're gonna have a nice long drawn out, and I think for the most part, we should have a fairly normal run. There's a lot more fish up in the river right now than what there typically would be, but I don't think they're going to be going anywhere. So yeah, I'm excited. There's one time of the year that I love fishing is fishing those white bass. They're super fun to catch, and when you can get people out that really don't get a chance to fish a whole lot, and they can go out and it's super easy to do. These guys can catch doubles and triples on these fly rigs, and everybody's smiling, having a good time, and they get to take fish home to eat too. So there's nothing better for a guide than to be able to go and put some people on some white bass. But I'm gonna grab a piece of line here and a fly. I'll be right back, and I'm gonna go through this how I kind of tie my fly rig, because I've had so many people ask, and I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. So, find my line here. Okay, flies. So I like using a lot longer fly than what most, and I always have a lot more Flashaboo in my flies. Um, Longer streamers, probably a little bit more hair, and then again that Flashaboo. So what you do, or how I tie my fly rigs, I tie or put three flies on my leader line. And for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to do my loop knot. So the first thing I would do would be to just tie this fly on to the end of the line. And then I'm going to move up. Let's see if we have, maybe I have one more. 1 second. Okay. So what we're going to do is we'll pretend this jig is a fly. So we're going to put this one down on the bottom. Okay, so that would be your first fly at the end of your line, all right? So now what I'm going to do is it's kind of important on how you run your line down through the eyelets of your hooks, of your flies. Open up some paint here. Okay. So you can see you got the hook. What you want to do is take the hook so the hook faces up, and then you're going to push the line through the eyelet from the bottom side up. Okay, and then you're going to slide that down. So I usually like to space, space it out from the bottom fly to the middle fly. I'd say about a good 15, 16 inches or so. So then what you're going to do is once you have that fly on there, you're going to tie, what I do is I tie a loop knot. So all I do is make a loop in the line and then grab the tag end down in the bottom and the loop, and you're going to do like about 5 wraps. So there's 1, 2, 3, we'll do 4. Okay, so then once we have that, our 4 wraps done, you're going to bring that fly back up through this little circle here, wet your line, pull her tight, and now you've got a loop knot that holds that fly on. And then again, so now we've got 1 fly, 2 flies, and then we do another one up another 15, 16 inches, and then that way there you've got your 3 flies on your rig. So what this does now is you've got some motion and some flexibility that thing can kind of dance around in order to give it a little bit more action. And then from there, I like using really long leads. It's all depending on how comfortable you are casting. For me, I've got no problem, but I get clients in the boat and people that aren't used to casting really long 3-way rigs. Most of my rigs for my personal use, I'll use like a 5 to 6 foot leader length with my flies, and then I'll put my 3-way, and then below that, my sinker, whether it be a bell sinker or a pencil weight. And typically with that, I'm keeping it at about 10 to 12 inches, nothing more than 12 inches. sometimes even just a little bit shorter, because most of these fish, when the current's as strong as what it is too, you've got those, those current humps that are down there, and those fish are sitting on the bottom side of those humps. And as you cast, perpendicular to the river, and you start bringing these baits back, you're actually bringing your baits right along parallel with those seams. And those fish are, they'll grab onto it. And what's fun too is, once you get used to casting these things and working these baits, once you catch one fish, or you feel that first bite, keep tension on the line, but then just kind of try and keep flicking it, and keep moving it, because typically with white bass, there's going to be more than one. If you catch one, there's definitely more than one right behind it. So if you get lucky and they hit, a front fly first, your other two trailers are behind there. That's when you'll get your doubles and triples, as you're sitting there and kind of bouncing it and waiting for that second or third fish to grab on. And it becomes a challenge. After you start catching a bunch of them, then you're trying to play around and see how you can optimize, and and have some fun catching the multiples. So that's how I do my fly rigs. It's pretty simple. I usually have a bunch tied up before we go out for the day, but for the most part, if you really need to change some colors, or the hair starts falling off or whatnot, it's real easy just to grab another piece of line and tie one up. So that's that. And then when we're pulling flies on three ways, typically we pull flies down in Oshkosh and the Fox, and we cast flies up on the Wolf. When we pull flies, we're using like a 4-ounce weight, maybe even a 5-ounce right now with how much current we have. And, we'll go to even a 10 or a 12-foot lead on the fly rig, something super long. And when you get those longer leads, you'll start getting that, that whipping action with the current. It'll start moving stuff around, and giving, just a little bit more action on those flies as you're pumping and pulling up into the current. So that's just my way. There's a million ways to do it. There's no right or wrong. I just know what works for me, and I'm just sharing that with you guys. So I know a lot of people do things differently, and some people tip them with minnows or whatnot too. And this just happens to be the easiest and most effective way that I find that works for me. So that's what's happening. The walleyes, we found walleyes in the deeper holes as well. They were pretty much cruising back down, I think, towards the lake. I know some walleyes have dumped back out in the Poigan. There's still a lot of fish up by New London right now. And guys, early in the morning and right before dark are getting, quite a few fish casting crankbaits up into the trees up along the edge of the river. That's been doing really well. And then dragging crawlers too. Once that temperature hits 50 degrees in the river is typically when I switch to crawlers and start dragging crawlers. So, plenty of different ways to catch them. Guys are getting them trolling out on the lakes. Guys are getting, pulling flies. Winneconnee's been pretty hot. Oshkosh, the white bass and the walleyes are kind of doing one of these things right now. And, the one thing we didn't see a whole lot of this year, and maybe it's still to come yet, but typically, when the white bass come up through Oshkosh, a lot of those small male walleyes will be down in there too. And haven't seen that. It's pretty much been just strictly white bass down there for me. And, a few perch mixed in as well. But again, it's been so crappy and so windy here the last week or so. It's been really, really tough fishing. When the wind's blowing 30, 40 miles an hour up current, anytime that happens, it's usually going to shut that river right down and makes for some really, really tough fishing. So at that point, all you can do is kind of head up to the Wolf and try and hide in some trees and get out of the wind for a while. But a lot of great fishing left to come. We're hoping water's really dropping fast. That's a good sign, and hopefully it continues to drop. Just, again, remember from the mouth of Poigan all the way up through the river right now, Winnebago County and Wapaka County, all under a slow no wake advisory. So anytime you're within 500 feet of a building or any sort of structure that's on land, you have to be going no wake. And that doesn't mean plowing through the water and going slow. That means you look out the back of your boat and you don't have a wake coming out the back of your boat. How high this water is right now, the erosion on shorelines and everything else is doing, can do a lot of damage if guys are just barreling through. So, once you get past, the buildings around the bend from Orahula down to the mouth, you can run wide open again. But you just guys use caution, be courteous to the other fishermen. When you got a corner that's packed full of a bunch of boats, there's no reason to be blowing through and trying to zigzag in between all the boats doing 40, 50 miles an hour. Just idle down through the fishermen and just treat everybody like you want to be treated. I know I have no problem, if there's a guy or two in the middle of the river, on the edge of the river, and those are the only two boats, and we've got a nice straightaway. I've got no problem running, wide open. You're putting less of a wake running wide open than you are doing 5-10 miles an hour plowing water. So just kind of use, be courteous. That's all. Just be courteous. As far as what else is happening, it's been so windy and so crappy conditions that haven't been getting out to explore a whole lot of other areas. Just pretty much been hiding up on the river out of the wind and catching walleyes and white bass. And we'll start here hopefully in the next week or two, starting to get out on the lake and try and find some of these post-spawn fish that are out in the lakes now, and getting into more of our summer patterns. But as long as that water's high and those fish don't have to leave, if the water's high, they've got plenty of trees, they've got no current that they can lay in, they've got frogs and bugs and everything else that they can feed on, and there's no reason for them to come back down until that water starts coming out of the trees and out of the woods. Once that happens, then you're going to see a major influx of fish head south, come out into the lakes, and fishing will get real good out in the lakes. But right now, with everything that's kind of going on, a lot of fish are sticking up north, up in the trees, and hanging around, New London and Fremont north. So hope time will tell. We'll have to see what happens here with the weather, and hopefully we don't get a whole lot more rain, and we can get into kind of a normal weather pattern and normal fishing pattern. So that's what I got for you this week. I know it's going on a little bit longer than what we typically have, but it's always nice talking with Brett. The guy's a wealth of knowledge. He gets to hang out with some of the best walleye sticks and fishermen in the world, the Linder boys, and that whole crew up in northern Minnesota, all good guys, and super grateful to have those guys on tonight. So thanks again, Brett, for joining, and give your daughter a big hug and get her back out in the boat and catch some more walleyes with her. Excited to see some pictures. And everybody that joined, thank you for joining tonight. Next week, let's see, what is our date next week? The 2nd. I can't remember. I think next week is when Jay Siemens is going to be on, that first week of May. It's either the 2nd or the 9th, but I'll clarify that and post when I hear that. So looking forward to having Jay on. He's another great dude, and he'll be talking fishing and talking about his catch and cook stuff too. So that's what I got for you guys. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Good luck this weekend. If you're turkey hunting, good luck out in the woods, and fishing any tournaments. Wish you guys all the best, and we'll catch you guys next week. Watch for some more videos here to drop over the next few days, just on some white bass stuff and talking a little bit of walleye fishing. So we'll catch you guys later. Cheers.